Pricking the Bubble. We're back for, I believe this is episode 5.
Oh, it is, yeah. It
Dr.
is.
Brant Raven.
It is. I think that's who I am.
That's who you are.
Dr.
Mike
Brant,
the Llama
yeah.
with you.
Mike the Llama. I'll introduce you, Mike. Introducing Mike the Llama and myself.
You're introducing yourself after I've done it as well?
You can do that. It's a Japanese thing to do.
Is it?
It is.
Very good. Are you Japanese?
I am not.
Neither am I. Excellent. So we'll move right on.
Are you turning Japanese?
I am. Oh,
Hang on.
who's that? Who's that?
Hang on a second. What was that voice? Are you studying ventriloquism again?
I am, which is terrible for radio. But anyway, I'd like to point out that we have a special... what term would we give him?
Well, audio engineer, wizard, researcher. Yeah.
We haven't asked you if you want to use your real name or another name.
Well, hang on. I'm using my real name.
Oh, so am I.
Yeah.
Well, I've come from a long line of llamas.
My real name is Peter.
Peter. So we have Peter. It's not Peter the Phantom Puller. It's Peter the audio expert.
Peter
That's
out.
right.
Peter out. There we go. So he will occasionally be chiming in with.
I believe the podcast has reached unprecedented heights of success. That we thought we'd have to get some real audio gizmos in to do it properly.
And also someone who might have some knowledge. That was also.
Hang on, what are you saying?
Happy. Oh, no, nothing at all. Just a happy
I
extrovert.
look forward to meeting that person.
Very good.
Right.
So he'll be arriving later. In fact,
Excellent.
she'll be arriving later.
Oh,
All right. So today, what I thought we'd do, and I know
Wow.
that sounded very preachy the way I began that.
excellent. So
Today-
episode number 5, and
Episode 5.
What
Well-
are we talking about today, Mike the Llama?
What we are going to be talking about specifically is religious freedom,
Religious freedom.
and I'll
Okay.
tell you why that this is cropped up. It's
Right,
very.
now you really need to remind people
I'll be reminding people.
when we do these podcasts.
Yes.
I don't know what the topic
No, that's
is.
right. So-
I have no idea.
Because the good doctor, let's just put it this way, is more spontaneous in his responses. I would say, when it comes to an emotional level, I think it's good that we approach these. I approach these with not so much background as to what's going on. Anyway, as soon as I say the words, we know what's going on. So what I'll give you the background. So here again, we're in Australia, and while he chokes in the background. Oh.
I apologise. We ought to we ought to stop doing these in the fog.
That's
Keep going.
That's right. I think I saw the Lusitania go past. Anyway, so right, so Israel Folau has been in the news. So
this
he's
is what
a-
you want to talk about.
well, no,
okay.
this is more of a lead into the actual topic. So what's happened? He's an Australian rugby player, and as part of his contract with Australian Rugby, he's a religious. His name's Israel Folau. I mean, I guess that sounds like he's kind of religious. Part of his contract included a clause or a section, or it's part of everyone's contract with Rugby Australia to not offend people and not be rude, not be controversial where you're insulting, the sorts of things about just generally being a pleasant guy.
I think the contract actually says that you're not going to bring Rugby Australia into a form of disrepute.
Well, that's right, and in doing that, specifically, it's about bagging people or being abusive to people or putting people down, and he kind of did that in one of his tweets where he said
He
that
kind of did that.
all right, he very much did that, where he suggested that fornicators, which I suspect is all of us, some more than others, gay people, all these sorts of religious type targets that are the usual ones, we're all going to go to hell. And I'm sure you could probably look it up while we're discussing this.
Yeah, we probably should have prepared this a little bit better.
No,
but as we say, I
this is
didn't know the
preparation.
topic.
No,
right,
that's fine. Anyway, and so he tweeted about this, and this was after he signed his new contract. And the actual issue is that he had been warned previously not to do it. So this was like a second time.
Really? Now, there's something I didn't know.
Yeah, so last year he'd written
I did
something
not
as well.
know that.
Then he'd signed a new contract, and then he did it again almost immediately. And what the actual issue is that he's claiming that he has had his religious freedom. Well, I'm not sure what the word is. Impinged is that the word? Upon, and so he's complaining that they have unfairly given him the sack, which is what they did. They gave him the sack because he broke 3 of their rules. I did look it up. We were going to do this the other week. 3 sections of the actual Rugby Australia rules, and he broke 3 of them and did it reasonably offensively, I think. Now, from my perspective, I don't believe in hell, so he may as well have been calling me a poopy pants. I actually don't really care. But for those who maybe do care, because, again, it's not always about me, as much as I like to think it is, it was offensive, and it was rude, and he broke the rules. So the question I have...
Yeah, so
you have it? Good, thank you. I was starting to get sick of my own voice.
Here's what I think he said, right? So I think the previous year he said something like, God's plan for gay people was hell, right? In quotes, which sort of...
Well, that makes it even better, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, it sort of makes it almost...
That's like someone wearing a lanyard. It adds a bit of credibility.
It does. But I think what he said in the most recent tweet, which is what got him into trouble, now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication. Oh no, so this is what he's basing it on. So this is what it says.
This is the bit from the Bible.
This is the bit from the Bible, right? Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these.
Right.
Adultery, fornication, uncleanliness.
Well, I'm stuffed.
Lasciviousness. I'm not pronouncing that correctly.
That's all right.
Idolatry, witchcraft.
Oh.
All right, Harry Potter's gone.
Harry Potter.
Hatred, variance. Variance. Anyone who studies statistics is gone. Emulations. Forget it.
We run those all the time.
Right. Wrath. Pronounced correctly, by the way.
Yes. David Lee.
Strife.
No, wrong one.
Seditions, heresies, envyings. Didn't even know that was a word. Murders.
Well, look,
groups of crow. Drunkenness, revelings.
Oh,
revelings. I think it's revelings. Sorry, guys. There was no A. Revelings.
Yeah, good.
And such. Gee, that's a bit of a. Such. That's pretty much.
That's reasonably open, isn't it?
And such. Of which I tell you before, as I have told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God.
Now, that's not terribly good grammar-wise, is it? But anyway.
That's from Galatians, right? Galatians. Right. So, a wonderful work of fiction, I must say.
Although I agree with the revealings, I think that's spoilers.
That's true. There's nothing worse than coming out of a movie and revealing what's happened to someone who hasn't seen it. So,
hey, guess what? Guess who Luke's father is?
So, anyway...
Yeah,
that's what's prompted it. So and what I would say is the thing that bothers me most with this is that, apart from the fact that that's actually just a contract issue between him and Rugby Australia, he's turned it into now a religious freedom issue. And I believe that the government is now trying to push forward with a religious freedom, adding these things into various acts and laws to allow religious freedom, because they believe their freedoms have been somehow picked on because of what's going on. So it wasn't so much what Israel Folau has said, it's that not everyone, a whole chunk of people have come out and said, well, hold on, that's crap. You were saying some really unpleasant things, and he's now got his knickers in a knot because people are having a go at him, and that there is picking on his religious freedom. So basically,
look, what he said was that gays should go to hell. That's basically what he said.
Well, that's the bit that I think everyone's concerned about. No one cares about all the rest of them.
He's basically saying gays should go to hell, and that sort of group of people, or
such,
that they should go to hell. Now, I've got to tell you, man, I will say this. I will fight tooth and nail for that man to say what he wants to say.
That's true. I'm completely okay with that.
I will fight a war for this guy to state what he wants to say, right? But I will also fight for my ability and my right to ridicule the absolute Christ out of him. And I mean that almost literally. I really do.
And I think that's part of the problem as well. It's it's not that people are complaining so much that he said it. They're complaining that he's now saying you shouldn't be allowed to say those things back to me because you're then having to go at my ability to say things, which is just idiotic.
I cannot honestly put into words my how completely offended I am that anyone would, in this day and age, would look at any group of people, no matter who they are or what they do, and based on some sort of religious text or based on some sort of presupposed idea that is not validated by any evidence whatsoever, make judgment upon those people. I find that absolutely reprehensible.
That's because you are similarly minded to myself. So that's not really. I don't think that's really the issue, though. What we're
no.
Because there's no way I can actually argue and say he's right or wrong.
The issue here is, did Rugby Australia break the law or any law by basically getting rid of this guy, by killing off his contract, by sacking him? Did they break the law?
But the law is now going to be changed.
Well, do we know for a fact that it's going to be changed? There's probably a whole bunch of lobbyists wanting.
No. I've seen the things where they're proposing. So the proposals are out there.
Proposed,
but that's how laws begin. You propose it and you put it forward, and then the government votes and things.
Well,
like
it's up to us. Up to us to fight against that, right?
Well, how's that worked?
Well, it has worked. It has worked. It's worked pretty well in the past, actually.
One thing I would say is that part of the thing that I was reading said that it was going to be put into the sections of the Marriage Act where the religious freedom part was being fundamental. And I think to myself, didn't we just go through a same-sex marriage? Was it a plebiscite or was it just a vote?
Oh, I don't know.
Where they said, well, we can't just make changes to the Marriage Act. We have to see if everyone... And yet they're going to just make this change here saying, well,
they're not going to just jump in and make the change.
But they are. That is precisely what it is they're proposing.
They can't just change the law like that. They're proposing it and people have to vote
but
on
they
it.
also have the numbers in Parliament. The government that we have, as we discussed in the previous podcast, that would be podcast number 2, have that... This is their proposal.
Well, okay.
And they have the numbers.
Well, I don't know what we fucking do then, because seriously, we have to... I don't know.
That's entirely
the only
my
thing
concern.
we can do is take on, like, Guy Fawkes and burn down Parliament. Seriously. I mean, I'm really quite serious. Okay? Look, the bottom line is this. Religious freedom should absolutely be allowed, right? You can believe any batshit idea that you want to believe.
Yeah,
That's not my
I'm happy
problem.
with that.
You're happy, right? But keep, as Christopher Hitchens once said... I don't mind.
We were about to say the exact same thing.
I don't mind that you have the toys. I don't mind if you want to play with the toys. I don't mind if you want to share the toys with those people that want to play with the toys. But keep the toys to your fucking self, right? Don't try and bring the toys to my house if I don't want to play with the toys.
I was going to use a penis comment. You know,
Right.
you don't take it out in public.
I feel a bit disgusted. I feel a bit disgusted. Paraphrasing the great Christopher Hitchens, that guy was an absolute treasure of the world, and I can't believe he's gone. But it is essentially what he said, and he's absolutely right when he said that. Religious freedom is important, right? You can't understand the world and people and history and the way everything is going without understanding religious freedom and understanding religion.
Okay.
Right? But it is a system of belief which is baseless. It is not in evidence, and it should not have anything to do with law.
Okay, so
what I'm saying is, let me just jump in.
Okay.
Right, what I'm saying is what Rugby Australia did was nothing against religious freedom. It was written into his fucking contract. He signed a contract because he wanted millions and millions of dollars. Right, fine, whatever. You know, I don't understand. I'm not even understanding. But anyway, someone offered him money to sign a contract so he can kick a ball around. Okay.
Mostly throwing, but yeah.
Whatever. That's great, right? That's great. But the contract came with conditions. He signed the contract. So he's got to meet those conditions. And if he doesn't meet those conditions, then the person who owns the contract can surely eliminate the contract. I mean, that's
okay.
law.
So let me put a hypothetical.
Come on, you're supposed to be a foil against what I'm saying.
You suck and you're wrong. Okay, so how about when these particular laws that they're talking about now come in, and it actually specifically says, yes, you must allow for religious freedom. How then do you think things would happen in the same situation if we have an actual law?
I don't know. I don't know.
But do you think that that's something that should be allowed? If
Well, I don't know. I don't know what they're proposing. I know, for example, in Europe and certainly in places like Amsterdam, okay, that if you go out and say anything against someone else's religion, especially the religion of peace, Islam, right? If you go and say something against that, you can potentially get into a fuckload of trouble, and that's written into their law.
But is that because they have a lot of Muslims there?
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't. It potentially is the fact that they've got a lot of Muslims there, but I think it's more because Europe is trying to make up a lot for its past, and there's a lot of guilt complex there about how they may have treated people and the fact that they need to show respect to people. But you know what? I mean, I don't need to show respect to a belief system. A system of belief that is baseless and without evidence. Why do I have to respect that? And in fact, you know, I don't really need to respect anything. I don't even respect science. How's that for you? I'm a scientist. I don't respect science. So why don't I respect science?
I'm glad you asked, because
Well, it's because science doesn't demand a respect of me. Science just is, right? Science just is. I mean, it's a system of inquiry. It's a system of facts, and it just is. It doesn't sit there demanding any respect from me. It just is.
Okay, so well, hold on. Science, in that respect, is not a living, breathing entity as such. But you could argue that religion is that, because religion now is more about the people involved in the religion, and so therefore
but who cares?
But they do.
And I don't care.
But
I don't care that they care.
But
I don't know. Listen and try and understand.
Okay.
I care that they care from the perspective that people in general are my brothers and sisters on this blue marble that we have to frickin' live on, right? I care from that perspective,
yes.
And I care in that I want to have respect for the ideas that they have. What I don't want them to do is I don't want them to impose those ideas on me, and I certainly don't want them to impose those ideas on the laws that have to govern my life.
Okay, so
right? So that's where I've got a problem.
So that's where I have the
But
problem.
if they want to practice those beliefs in their own homes,
go for it,
and they want to eat certain things and not other things, and if they want to burn candles during Christmas and whatever they want to do, that's completely their business, and I'll fight for them to be able to do that. Just don't bring it into my laws. Don't bring those ideas into my secular life.
Yeah,
that's all I'm asking.
I do think that part of what has worked well here has been the whole separation of religion and politics, and I see this. Maybe it's because we have a prime minister who is from a particular brand of Christianity that seems a bit extreme. I mean, all Christianity seems a bit extreme to me, but he's coming from, what is he again? Pentecostal.
He's the same as Israel, Folau.
Yeah, so they're a bit extreme in their, talking in tongues, and look, that's more of a picking point. But
do you realise in the Pentecostal faith, when you reach the age of 15, 16, whatever some magic number is.
What, you marry the church?
Yeah, you effectively give yourself over to Christ and you marry the church.
Yeah.
And part of the requirement of doing that is to be able to speak in tongues.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the receiving of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
That's where at the Pentecost, that's where the disciples are said to have received it. Yeah.
That's it, right? And you're supposed to speak in tongues. Now, I mean, you look at a whole bunch of research on this, man. There's a whole bunch of wonderful research on how the brain works, and when it's starved of oxygen and when it's got too much of whatever substance.
Alcohol.
Well, it could be alcohol.
We all speak in tongues when we have too much to drink.
It could be lots of things, right? The brain just goes into a completely different state, and it's no different to freaking gibberish.
No.
It really isn't.
And so, given that's the person who is currently in charge of our country,
right,
and who has been pushing these changes,
right,
what what do we do? What is there to do? And we can complain, but again, they have the numbers. I can only hope that the sensible religious people who are in Parliament, if that's a thing, call it out as the bullshit that it is, and say, well, hold on, no one's freedoms are being stifled by having someone have a go back at them.
Well, again, I mean, I don't know what you do, and it seems very, very contradictory, because if you're saying that they can say what they want, but I can't say anything back, then aren't my own religious freedoms, aren't my own freedoms being stifled?
Well, that's right. Do religious freedoms trump regular freedoms?
No, they don't.
But that's what it feels like.
It does feel like that
happening.
to me. It does. It feels like that to me very much. No, and no, they shouldn't. And okay, I honestly didn't know that was happening. It makes me sad to hear that that's happening, right? Because I don't know if anyone out there. I'm sure people do watch the Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
I was reading an article. For those that don't know, the Handmaid's Tale is based on Margaret Atwood, the author, based on her books. And it's based on a dystopia which is built around the scripture.
So let's make it real.
Well, I mean, I was reading an article just the other day that basically said it would take about 5 years to turn a democracy, and I use the word very loosely, into that sort of dystopia, and that shocks me. 5 years. And what's funny is there's a lot of people that believe it could never happen. There's the problem, right? A lot of people are so used to living the life that they have. They're so used to having the situation that they have that they don't actually believe that dystopia can happen. And partly the problem is that there's no fight in the dog left anymore. And having travelled around the world to various places, I can tell you Australia is the one place where if you were going to start some sort of dystopia, it may actually work in Australia because people just don't care enough in this country.
Well, it's been evident from recent election results and things where people just are completely disengaged from a whole lot of stuff.
Exactly.
But perhaps that is just a consequence of having crap people in charge. It turns people away, and so it creates an opportunity for those who have nutty views.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely it does.
I guess it worked in certain other European countries back in the past.
Oh, and it worked very well. And it worked very well. And don't believe that those mistakes can't be repeated.
I guess part of the other thing that I was thinking is, just when you said that, is a lot of people, you were talking about effectively the slippery slope.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that term has had a almost an attempt to invalidate it through my friends on the left, through conversations to do with gay rights and same-sex marriage and things. There's a lot of the argument from the religious right, or the right in general, has been, well, this is just a slippery slope. Next we'll be wanting to have polygamous relationships and marriage to animals. And so people have said, no, slippery slope is just crap. Let's just vote on this thing. And so it becomes a situation where when anyone says, oh, it's a slippery slope, no one believes that that's what's going to happen. So you put it the other way around, where it's something that those of us on the left who are soft and whatever it is,
but there's slippery slopes and then there's slippery slopes, okay? There really is.
No true words have been said.
If some guy out there wants to marry his dog, okay, you know
what? Is it a male dog or a female?
Well, I don't really care.
Okay.
Maybe it's a male dog that wants to be female.
Right, okay.
But no, but seriously, if some guy wants to marry some other guy, or if some woman wants to marry some other woman, or if someone wants to marry 3 women, or if someone wants to marry their animal, you know what? I'm not sure I really care. I really am not. But I'll tell you where I'm coming from. I mean,
Please do. I'm interested.
No,
in that.
I really don't. I really don't care, because I honestly don't feel that those people doing those things are affecting my life. They're not degrading my society. I mean, I really haven't seen. I'm as you know, I'm a very evidence-based person, and I have not seen any evidence for the degradation of society based on these people. Right? I have not seen any evidence of the degradation of society. Gay rights have increased over the last 50 years, right?
Yep.
That's pretty obvious. It has happened, right? Take, for example, the Mardi Gras in Sydney.
Well, it's gone from being a novelty, which is effectively what it was in the early days, I would have thought, something for people to look at and go, oh, look at them, they're dressed in whatever it is, to now it's a celebration. And I'm sure those people were celebrating it to begin with.
Right.
But now the people attending are celebrating it as well, rather than going for the spectacle alone.
Right. And how many years did someone like the Reverend Fred Niles rail against having the Mardi Gras?
Is he still alive?
I think he is, yeah. Yeah. But how many years did he rail against it? Now, really, let's be absolutely... I'll speak the truth and where I can find it, right? Has the fact that we've got more gay rights over the last 50 years, has that hampered society? Has it been a bad thing? Has society disintegrated anymore? It hasn't. That's the truth. That's the reality.
That's true, now, but to these other people, that could be the first step in their slippery slope.
Yeah, but they're basing their system of living on fantasy.
That's how we see it. That's not how they see it.
Well, that's not. But that doesn't matter how they see it. It doesn't matter
to them, though.
Well, it doesn't matter how they freaking well see it. You've got to look at reality. The reality is that you've got to look at facts. The fact is that what they're believing is fucking fantasy. It is. They believe in fantasy things. They do. What they believe is in no way demonstrable as a fact.
But you do know
evidence.
That somewhere else, there's another podcast where two people are sitting here saying the exact opposite thing.
They can do that.
Yeah, that's good.
They can do that. And let's celebrate them for doing that, because that'll give us more material to talk about.
I think it's helpful to understand from their point of view that they really truly believe that what they have is the truth. So they don't. So if you think about it from their perspective, the best way to talk to people like that is to acknowledge, at least in your own mind, that they really do believe that they think they have the truth. And if you just tell them that what they believe is fantasy, it's not going to.
Well, that's part of the argument I've always said is when you have an idea, you need to bring people with you rather than standing across the other side of the road and throwing rocks at people.
You can't bring people with you when they start believing in shit. You just can't do it. And it's not possible. I can believe in a lot of things, and I can look at the flat earthers, right? For example, look at those guys. Look at a bunch of fucking good citizens they are, right? No, seriously, right? Now, I actually don't believe that they believe what they do.
No, I think it started off as a parody.
Right, I think they're taking the piss. I really believe that they're taking the piss. Right?
You'd hope so.
No, I really do. I just can't believe anyone's that much of a moron.
Okay.
I can't. I refuse to believe that. I know people are generally a bit stupid, right? And I even include myself in that lot, because there's a lot of things I don't know, right? There's a big fuck of a load of things I do know as well, right? But my point is, there's no point in talking to those guys at all. Really, there really isn't, because, I mean,
you're not going to change them.
No, if I show you a piece of paper that's black, and you look at that paper and say to me that it's blue, and you just continue, now you're just being belligerent, right? Now it's just belligerent, right? It's pointless. It's a pointless discussion.
It is.
Right? And it's the same with these guys. It's a pointless discussion. And it's the same with the religious people. It doesn't matter that they believe what they believe. The only thing that matters is truth.
And so when some of that, going back to our topic again, when some of that creeps into law...
that's...
I believe we're setting ourselves up for a pretty shitty future.
Oh, we are.
Because...
Well, we are. No, I didn't know that this was happening.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because I tend to stay away from it as much as I can.
But the thing about...
No, but you're right. I mean, it is a shitty future if it's going to make it into law in that way. Look, the only thing that matters and the only thing that governs my life is I want to live my life as true as possibly as much as I can, right? I want to base my life on as much truth as possible, on as much reality as possible, right? That's why I don't take substances.
You're a big fan of Star Wars. How's the reality working for that?
Well, the reality of Star Wars is that it's a wonderful story, just like the Bible.
Historical documents,
right? Well, I mean, it's a wonderful story, but there's a lot of facts that you can take out of Star Wars. The story itself isn't factual, at least not that we know of.
It was a long time ago, so maybe it was.
And in a galaxy far, far away.
Correct.
No, but in all honesty, there's Yeah, yes, I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm a sci-fi fan, but the science fiction is a reality within our world. But in of itself, it's not a reality. We all know that, right? That doesn't take away from how wonderful it is and how much I can enjoy it. And we've discussed it many times. And the discussion that it's generated has been really, really interesting and enjoyable, right? So I mean, there's a lot of there that can be discussed. But the point is, I want to live my life in reality as much as possible. Okay. So this is why I don't do drugs. I won't do alcohol and anything that can affect my mind.
Well, that's unfortunate for what I've brought over for afternoon tea, but that's okay.
Wonderful.
Yes.
But I try and read as much and inform myself as much as I can, and I'm surprised. It really annoys the Christ out of me how people don't read enough. They don't inform themselves enough. They won't pick up a book and read it. And this is my whole argument with sport and everything, right? People will go to a sporting match or whatever, and they'll just sit there and completely lull themselves into this system of I don't know what to even call it.
Well, sometimes that's just having a bit of a mental break. I mean, not everything can be about having an intellectual discussion on things.
I agree with you. But I'm trying to address the point that these religious nutters actually believe what they believe. Right? And I accept that they believe it. I accept that they think they have the answers. But when you ask them to demonstrate it, they can't.
Well, that's a bit, well, that's never going to work though. Which we know it's never going to work.
But they can't fucking demonstrate it. They can't. They don't look at you and try and demonstrate. And what they'll do is they will look at the framework by which you want them to demonstrate it. And they'll try.
That's incorrect.
That's an incorrect framework, and it's the same framework
but
that
isn't that
built
what we're
the
doing
fucking
to them?
cell phone that they're calling their mate on. It's the same framework that that's been used to build the iPad to where they can read their freaking Bible on. I mean, it's the same. It's the same framework that has allowed their freaking Bible, their stories, to be disseminated. It's the same framework, but they're cherry picking, right? The framework is good enough when it works for them, but it's not good enough when you ask them to use that framework to present any evidence.
A lot of religion is about cherry picking, so we can accept that part.
Do you ever think Israel Folau had a wank? Do you ever think?
But hold on. But he refers to those sorts of times. Well, not specifically that, but he refers to those things in the past as to why he is so dedicated to his religion now. He's atoning for his.
How fucked is that, though? How fucked is that? Seriously. No, really.
But he seems happy, though.
No, but seriously, of course he's happy. Of course he's freaking happy. He's been able to say what he says. He's been able to make millions of dollars. He's been able to be respected by all these bogans who love rugby and at the end of the day, the people it's all the people at the higher echelons of rugby that are making all the money.
I just interrupt and say I quite like rugby, but that's
no. But seriously, of course he's happy. Of course he's happy.
I think the point there too is that he's actually hasn't had his freedom of speech impinged upon. He
said it, which is why we're talking about it.
Yeah. The fact that he's got about 2 billion people that he can draw on and tweet to.
Yeah,
it's very frustrating. I tell you, I sit here and I'm exceptionally frustrated. I really am. But again, and these people that have contributed to his campaign or whatever, fundraising campaign, so he can battle it in court and all this sort of stuff. What a bunch of freaking knobs. What a bunch of morons. It really shows you.
But they are entitled to do what they want with their money.
Yes, they are. They are. Absolutely they are. That doesn't mean that they're not morons. That doesn't mean that they're... No, they are, though.
Feels a little subjective, but yeah.
No, but they are morons. They are. They are really... They've bought in wholesale into the ideas that have been espoused. And they're the wrong ideas. This is why society will eventually fail.
The other thing I was going to say, specifically about this Pentecostal church, you're aware that the particular church, Hillsong, I think it is, the one that the Prime Minister goes to, over was it last year or last 6 years, made $100 million. Now, apart from the actual religious aspect of what churches do, isn't there an element of charity? Isn't there an element of helping out the poor or the less fortunate? If you've got $100 million, pay for your own fucking defence in friggin' law. I mean, what a load of crap. We're going to go...
Like I said, I'm not going to look at that situation and say that the church should pay for him for his defence.
Why not?
No, I'm not going to do that because, like we just said, people should be allowed to contribute whatever money that they want.
He should. But look, where is the humility? I'm not going to.
But that's what I just said before. But that's what I said before. That it's an exercise in cherry picking. It's an exercise. I mean, does he eat shellfish? The Bible says you can't eat shellfish. Does he wear linen clothing? The Bible says you can't do that either.
Is he coveting thy neighbour's ass?
Yeah. Is he? There's a whole bunch of stuff, right? And they'll all cherry pick you. Yeah. They'll all. Oh no, that's Old Testament. You know what? Where's his slave? I should be able to get a slave. Where's my freaking slave?
Slaves for all.
Because that's another thing that the Bible teaches that people don't know. The Bible teaches you that you can have slaves, and it teaches you not only that you can have them, it teaches you how to get them, where to get them from, who to buy them from.
So it's like
and once you have them, how you can keep them. And you know what?
How hard you can hit them.
Yeah, how hard I can hit them.
So it's a little bit like it's 2,000-year-old junk mail.
No, but I'm just
saying, telling you where you can get the bargains.
No, but seriously,
sale on slaves.
I'm trying to put this in perspective, right? How do you believe in one bunch of things, and you're gonna look at gay people and say you're all going to hell because this is what my book says, right? But then you look at a whole bunch of other things and you say, oh no. That's in the book, but I'm going to ignore all that. Well, come on now. Now what are you doing? How is that written into fucking law? How is that written into law? That's ridiculous.
And again, the fact that they want to do it is the part that troubles me greatly.
This is why I say, society, we're fucked. We will always lose.
However, I believe that the problem with it is...
The only way to win this battle... No, in all seriousness, the only way to win this battle is for
leave Earth.
Is for people who have a rational mind and base their life on being a rational person to not contribute to the society. So every doctor who is using science and their skills to enact medicine.
Bad luck. Use your faith to.
Use your faith. Go away and use your fucking faith to heal that cancer, to make you feel better. You know, I hate saying that, Mike. I really hate saying it, right? But the only way to win the battle is to demonstrate it, right? I really hate saying that. I really do. So telecommunications, switch off that fucking tower. Go and use your freaking faith to talk to someone now, right? Switch off that tower. Google, right? Switch off. Get off. Get off Google. I
am reminded of that joke, and I think I told you the other day where there's the great flood, and the person standing on top of their house. Praying, oh God, please save me, God, what am I going to do? And then suddenly this guy comes along in a boat and says, hop on in, come on. He's like, no, God's going to save me. And then suddenly the plane's coming along. And it's like, oh no. Anyway, he dies, goes to heaven, and he says, "Why, God? Why didn't you save me?" He said, "Well, I sent you a fucking boat."
I have a problem. I've got a problem with that joke, and the problem is that the guy at the end of the
is in heaven.
He goes to heaven, and there is a God.
Yes.
Right. So I've got a problem with that.
Well,
joke
maybe he wakes up and he's in hospital.
Right, because it supposes that a God does exist. So I don't like the joke. Right.
However, that joke, what it does is it takes the piss out of the person, but at the same time respecting that they have their religion.
Look, the bottom line is, like I said. Look. I think we're
we're getting close to.
I think we're getting close to the end,
we are.
right? And I think we should wrap it up by saying,
okay.
I absolutely believe in freedom of speech.
Yep.
I'm a very big proponent of freedom of speech, and I would fight for people to have freedom of speech. I also believe in religious freedom. I believe that anyone should be able to believe anything that they like.
Mm-hmm.
But as a secularist, I also believe, or I don't believe it, I know that a person's belief should not affect our laws, and our laws should be based on logic and facts and evidence and things that can be demonstrated. They should be based on reality. It's easy for me to demonstrate that I shouldn't go around killing people because that's a bad thing for everyone. I can demonstrate that, and I can argue that point purely from a logical point of view. Mm-hmm. I don't need to go to any religious text.
Bible, yeah.
I don't need to refer to any book. I can work it out for myself, right? I can work out every law that we have. I can work out for myself. I don't need to refer to any religious text. And that's the key thing in all of this, right? So yes, I do believe in having people's freedoms, and I believe in people's religious freedoms, but not when it comes down to changing our laws. That is a really, really big no-no, and that's a really big slippery slope. And in all seriousness, I really want people to go, for those that haven't watched it, go and watch The Handmaid's Tale or read the book, because it really demonstrates what can happen when you start going down a path that is just completely based on fantasy.
I do find it, in conclusion, I do find it somewhat amusing that the star of that show is a Scientologist, given pretty much what they believe is a fantasy, even more batshit crazy than probably what's in the story itself.
Is that Elizabeth?
What's her name?
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. I look at her and I think, I
didn't know she was a Scientologist.
She is.
Okay.
She's a Scientologist.
All right, well, I've just lost a bit more respect for the show then.
Yes. Can you go negative for respect?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. All right. Anyway, we should finish off. Like I said, this was going to be a topic that was going to just go anywhere. But
and I'm sure, okay. I don't know that we can necessarily ever finish this topic, and I'm sure it'll probably be brought up in other podcasts.
Yeah. There will be specifics relating to, things we've touched on. So, anyway,
right, conclusion.
We will. In conclusion, we're all for religious freedom, but I would say that general freedom trumps that religious freedom.
Yeah, and important to say,
Trump.
In the Israel Folau case, his religious freedom was absolutely not impinged.
Yeah,
right.
He wasn't prejudiced against. He's just a cock. Anyway, this is Mike the Llama and Dr. Brant Raven and our special help Peter. We will see you in the next one. Adios.
See you all.